Interesting.
And so that's why we value people who are great listeners, people who can really understand us, people and demonstrate that they understand us. And we will pay more for them. Well, they've spent more time really honing in and developing those skills that are slower to develop. So in answer to your question, do I think that's worth more? Yes, I think that is. And in order to do that, there's something too, where typically those people aren't available all the time. They're accessible, but they're not available.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we lose that, where we think, oh, in order to be the best for my clients or my customers, I have to be available to them all the time. Well, then you're not reserving any time to build your skill. And so the time you give them is going to be of lower quality.
Yeah.
Where if you can reserve the time to build skill, then yes, you're going to pay for somebody who has less time to give to do that, but you're going to pay them more because that time is going to be filled with higher skill.
Yeah. I look at like CEOs of big companies, and the first thing you think a lot of times is they can't be there that often. When they're like chairman of 8 different businesses and they're in a Fortune 500, but then they are the highest paid, typically, person in the building. So I consider my time as how much in a day can I learn, can I grow? I love that we talked about earlier, like I'm for sure a know-it-all, and I love people who say, hey, you're just wrong here. And that's when I unlock the door. I'm like, oh, okay, let me figure this out.
Yeah.
So in your life, you're a pastor, or were a pastor?
Yeah, I was in vocational ministry for over 20 years. So I'm not on church staff anymore.
Okay.
I own 2 companies. I just sold one, but I still have a consulting company.
Okay.
That takes up the majority of time that I want to give.
I'm sure. How has your role in the church as a pastor, growth over time, how has that affected your ability to lead? I look at a pastor as like the ultimate leader. I mean, you're talking to potentially hundreds of people at a time, and you're changing the course of their week going forward, because Sunday can mean a lot for people. How did that change your philosophies and mindset as a leader?
That was a great question. I think so for me, the majority of my vocational background is in church ministry and church leadership. And then when I kind of felt what I would say a calling, where I wanted to bring biblical principles into secular industries. I felt called beyond the walls of the church. And so I thought in that pursuit that I'm going to have to learn a whole new set of lessons in business. I'm going to have to learn a whole new set of lessons in leadership. What I quickly learned is they're the same lessons. I'm just learning them a second time. Like, okay, wait, the same because it doesn't matter if you're trying to motivate 200 employees or 200 volunteers. The same needs apply. It's interesting how little money does kind of affect motivating people to move. And so I realized that I learned a lot in 20 years of ministry that easily transferred the good and the bad into the market, into the marketplace, into the business world, and could do that. The same skills when you're preaching